Ever wonder what separates the good from the truly great? We're going to dive into that right now. You've seen it happen, right? A team looks unbeatable on paper, but when it counts, they just fail. Why?
Well, that exact question obsessed a guy named Rich Devine. He's a former Navy SEAL commander.
His job was literally choosing who made the cut for the SEALs. So yeah, he saw it all.
And he realized something crucial. Just having the right skills didn't guarantee you'd make it. So this is his big idea. It's not about skills. It's about something deeper he calls attributes.
Think of attributes as your default settings. They're how you react when the plan goes sideways. So the goal isn't peak performance in perfect conditions. It's optimal performance in any condition.
In other words, it's about thriving in the mess, not just shining when things are easy. All right, let's get into the good stuff. He breaks down 25 attributes into 5 main categories.
First up, we've got grit. This is all about your toughness and the will to just keep going.
Next is mental acuity, basically how you think and process things when you're under the gun.
Pillar 3 is drive. This is that engine inside you, the thing that pushes you to succeed.
Fourth, we have leadership attributes. These are all about how you impact and guide your team.
And finally, teamability. The qualities that make people actually want to work with you.
And then there are these 3 wildcards: patience, fear, and competitiveness. They can help or hurt.
And that's the thing. You can't see this stuff on paper. It only comes out under pressure.
And this isn't just for SEALs, right? This is about you. It's about understanding what makes you tick.
So how do you get better at this? You've got to put yourself in uncomfortable situations, on purpose.
So it really makes you think. When everything goes wrong, what's your go-to attribute? Okay, let's dive into a really powerful way to think about success. It's a framework that was forged in some of the most high-stakes environments on the planet, and it comes from former Navy SEAL commander Rich Devine. He spent decades trying to figure out what truly makes someone elite.
So, picture this. You're an expert. You're at the absolute top of your game, highly skilled in what you do. But then, suddenly, you're thrown into a situation that is so stressful, so completely uncertain that none of your carefully honed skills even apply. What do you do then? To really get this, we have to go somewhere the stakes are, well, they're literally life and death. This is inspired by Devine's own journey as a SEAL, someone who, believe it or not, had to conquer a serious fear of heights.
Now, this isn't just a made-up scenario. This is the kind of moment where all your training, all your practice might just go right out the window. It's pure chaos, pure uncertainty. And it's in these moments that a much deeper layer of performance is revealed, something you just can't learn from a textbook.
And the answer to that question, what do you rely on, is where we find the hidden drivers of success. It's all about understanding the massive difference between what you can do and who you are when the pressure is on.
So let's really break this down, because it's important. On one side, you've got skills. These are the what. They're things you learn and practice, like coding or public speaking. They're pretty easy to see and measure. But on the other side, you have attributes. These are the how. They're your innate qualities, like resilience or humility, that really determine how you behave when things go completely off the rails. It's not about knowing how to ride the bike. It's about having the grit to get back on after you fall.
And this quote from Rich Devine just nails it. When the plan you've worked on for months completely implodes, it's not your skills that are going to save you. Nope, it's your deep-seated attributes that grab the steering wheel.
We hear the term peak performance all the time, but think about it. A peak is just a single point that you immediately fall from. Devine argues for something else, optimal performance. And that's all about doing the very best you can with what you've got in that moment, whether it's a great day or you're just grinding through a tough one. It's about being effective always.
And here are just a few of those core attributes he identified. Things like adaptability, courage, and maybe surprisingly, humility. These are the qualities that really dictate how we face down a challenge, how we bounce back from failure, and how we work with others when the pressure is really on.
All right, so how does this all play out in the real world? Let's talk about something I'm sure we've all seen before. Devine calls it the dream team paradox.
You know the drill. A company or a sports franchise decides to build the ultimate team. So what do? They go out and get all the A-listers, right? The person with the perfect resume, the all-star player, the genius coder. On paper, they look unbeatable.
But this is what happens, isn't it? When a real crisis hits, all those individual skills suddenly matter a whole lot less than how the team behaves together. Without the right mix of attributes, like humility and open-mindedness, all those big egos start to clash, fingers get pointed, and the whole thing just implodes.
Devaney saw this with his own eyes in the SEALs. He talks about how platoons filled with humble, eager new guys would often run circles around the rockstar platoons, the ones full of seasoned veterans who thought they knew it all. The new guys acted like sponges. They collaborated, they listened. The rockstars, not so much.
So, the solution isn't just stacking a team with individual superstars. The real magic happens when you build a team whose attributes complement each other, where they mesh together like a zipper. One person's patience balances out another's impulsiveness. That's what creates a truly resilient unit.
Okay, so this all leads to a huge question. Are we just stuck with the attributes we've got? Is it all just baked into our DNA? Well, the answer, thankfully, is a big, loud no. You can absolutely develop them.
But, and this is a big but, you can't develop attributes the same way you learn skills. There's no weekend workshop for resilience. You forge these qualities by willingly putting yourself in uncomfortable situations that demand them. You want to be more patient? Go stand in the longest line at the grocery store on purpose. It's in that discomfort that the real growth happens.
And this right here, this is the secret sauce. This is the key takeaway for your own personal growth. True development, the kind that really matters, doesn't happen when you're comfortable. It happens right there on the edge of your comfort zone, where your attributes are truly put to the test. So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this question to carry with you. The next time things get chaotic and uncertain, and they will, what are you going to fall back on? Is it just what you can do? Or is it who you are? Because that's what will make all the difference.
All right, today we're going to tear apart one of the most talked about concepts for success, grit. But what if I told you that what most of us think grit is really just scratching the surface? We're going to dive deep into the work of former Navy SEAL Rich Devaney to uncover the real formula behind this incredibly important trait. So, just for a second, what do you think? When I say the word grit, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Is it toughness, being stubborn, just grinding through no matter what? Whatever it is, just kind of hold on to that idea, because we're about to turn it on its head. You see, the common wisdom is that grit is this one thing. It's a quality that some people are just lucky enough to be born with. You know, you see someone do something amazing against all odds, and you say, wow, they've just got so much grit. Like it's this magical built-in feature. But that's where we get it wrong. According to Devaney, grit isn't a trait at all. It's not an ingredient you put in the cake. Grit is the cake. It's the powerful result you get when you combine a few other key attributes. And honestly, that changes everything.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with why grit isn't what you think. Then we'll break down its 4 core components. We'll talk about courage and how it's about making friends with your fear. Then perseverance, falling down and getting back up. After that, adaptability, how to be unbreakable. And finally, resilience, which is all about your recovery speed. Then we'll tie it all together so you can see your own personal grit formula.
So let's kick things off with courage. And to really get it, we have to understand its partner in crime, fear. See, this isn't about getting rid of fear, not at all. It's about learning how to work with it. This line from one of Devaney's senior officers, wow, it just says it all, doesn't it? Why would a fearless leader be a bad thing? Well, because fear actually has a job to do. Someone with no fear isn't assessing risk. They're just being reckless, and that's incredibly dangerous. So let's be super clear on this. Courage literally cannot exist without fear. It's not about being fearless, it's about feeling that fear, feeling that physical response in your body, and then managing it so you can still act effectively. It's about choosing to step into that discomfort. We treat fear like it's a weakness, but it's actually an evolutionary superpower. It's your brain's built-in risk assessment software, and all it's doing is screaming, hey, pay attention, something important is happening here. It sharpens your senses, it focuses you. Ignoring it is like putting tape over your car's check engine light. And this puts it perfectly. The fearless person, they just charge ahead, totally blind to the cliff in front of them. But the courageous person, they see the cliff, they feel the fear of falling, but they've trained themselves to manage that feeling and find a safe way forward. Okay, so from courage, let's build to our second attribute, perseverance. You know that old Japanese proverb, fall 7 times, get up 8? Well, that's pretty much the whole story right there. At its heart, perseverance is just about staying on the path. It's that quality that lets you stay focused on where you're going, especially when you hit roadblocks, setbacks, or things are just taking a way longer than you thought they would. It's the motor that keeps you chugging along. But here's the thing. Perseverance isn't just about being stubborn. It actually has two sides. On one hand, you've got persistence. That's about sticking with your plan. But then you have tenacity. And that's what you need when your plan completely falls apart. It's the creativity to find a whole new way forward when the old one is gone. It's the difference between banging on a locked door and finding an open window. Now for our third ingredient, adaptability. And for this one, I want you to picture a frog. Not a big, rigid oak tree that snaps in a storm, but a frog, which can thrive pretty much anywhere, in water, on land, you name it. Devaney calls this reactive mental flexibility. Basically, it's your ability to roll with the punches when the world changes and your beautiful plan is suddenly useless. It's about adjusting calmly and quickly instead of getting angry or trying to force things. And you can actually build this skill by putting yourself in new situations and just practicing how to pivot. Here's a super relatable example. Let's say you start a new job at some fast-moving company where things change all the time. Instead of getting frustrated and saying, well, at my old job we did it this way, you just embrace it. You learn the new workflow, you adjust how you do things, and you stay focused on the team's goal. That, right there, is adaptability in action. And building on that, we get to our fourth and final attribute, resilience. And just like with courage, we need to tweak the popular definition a little bit. It's not just about bouncing back. It's about how fast you do it. So you can think of resilience as your recovery speed. After a major setback, a failure, or even a big win, how quickly do you get back to your normal baseline self emotionally and mentally? That speed, that's the real measure of resilience. So please remember this. Everybody gets knocked off balance. Stress, failure, that's just part of the game. It is never a question of if you'll get knocked down. The only thing that matters is how fast you get back up and reset. That's resilience. So there we have it, our 4 key elements: courage, perseverance, adaptability, and resilience. So now let's put them all together and see how they create that incredible result we call grit. And here it is, the whole formula on one slide. Courage, to act even when you're scared. Perseverance, to stick with it and find new solutions. Adaptability, to pivot when things change. And resilience, to get back on your feet fast. This right here, this is the recipe for high performance. And this might be the most powerful idea of all. None of these things are fixed personality traits. They are skills, and you can build them. You can't just read a book about resilience, but you can build it by intentionally doing hard things that test you. All growth happens right at the edge of your comfort zone. So, as we wrap up, the real question isn't, do you have grit or not? The real question is, which of these 4 pillars do you need to work on? When you look at your own goals and your own challenges, which one of these attributes are you going to choose to build first?
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are getting into the hidden drivers of peak performance, and we're taking our cues from the incredible work of former Navy SEAL Commander Rich Devaney. We're going to explore those core traits that really determine how we show up under pressure, not just what we know, but, who we really are.
Just let that sink in for a second. When a project deadline gets slammed forward, or you're in some tense negotiation and everything just goes off script, it's not your technical skills that save you, is it? It's something way deeper. It's who you are at your very core. And that is the big idea we are unpacking today.
So what's the real difference here? Well, this slide just lays it out perfectly. Skills? Those are the things we learn. They're all about the how-to. You can learn how to ride a bike, no problem. But attributes, they're about how you'll be while you're doing it. It's that built-in stuff like resilience or patience that decides if you get back on that bike after you fall off for the 10th time. And you usually don't even see them until the pressure is on.
Now, Devaney organizes these core traits into a few different categories like grit and drive. But today, we're focusing on the one that really holds all the others up, mental acuity. This is all about how your brain actually handles the world, especially when things start getting chaotic. Okay, it is so important to get this. This has nothing to do with your IQ score or how many fancy degrees you have hanging on the wall. Think of mental acuity as the operating system for your brain. It's the raw processing power you've got when you're staring down a new, stressful, or totally uncertain challenge.
All right, let's get into it. We are going to break down the 4 essential attributes that make up mental acuity. We'll start with situational awareness, which Devani calls the art of vigilance. Then we'll hit compartmentalization, task switching, and learnability. And finally, we'll see how they all come together to form this powerful mental arsenal.
First up, situational awareness, or as we're calling it, the art of vigilance. And look, this isn't just another item on the list. It is the absolute foundation that every other mental skill is built on.
So this isn't about just kind of passively looking at what's in front of you. No, it's about actively absorbing what's going on, filtering out all the noise, and really understanding what the important information actually means for your mission or your goal.
And here's the crucial point. Without really solid situational awareness, all your other mental tools, well, they have nothing to work with. It's kind of like having a supercomputer with zero data. If you can develop this attribute, you can effectively read the room, the battlefield, or the boardroom and see what's coming before it even gets there.
Okay, next up is wired for efficiency, and this is all about compartmentalization. So once you've taken in all that information through your situational awareness, you need a way to manage it so you don't get completely overwhelmed. And that is where this attribute comes into play.
Think of this as pure mental discipline. It's the ability to just put aside all the distractions, the anxieties, even your emotions, and focus with absolute clarity on the one thing that matters right now. This is exactly what keeps your brain from crashing when you're in some unfamiliar or super stressful situation.
I mean, just think about that for a second. The difference is night and day, right? Mastering compartmentalization is absolutely the key to preventing that mental burnout and keeping your performance high, especially when you're way outside your comfort zone.
All right, now for an attribute that might just challenge a belief you have about productivity. A lot of us, myself included, kind of pride ourselves on being great multitaskers, but the science tells a very, very different story. So here's the truth of it. We don't actually multitask. Our brains, they're just not built to handle multiple complex things at the exact same moment. What we're really doing is switching our focus between tasks really, really fast.
And this number, it's just stunning. Studies show that a staggering 98% of people actually perform worse when they try to multitask. That constant switching back and forth just creates mistakes and slows you down. Only about 2% of people are what you'd call true supertaskers.
So the goal isn't to try and do everything at once. The real skill, the attribute you want, is task switching. It's about developing that mental agility to pivot your full, undivided attention from one thing to the next, cleanly and on purpose, without losing your momentum. Our fourth and final attribute, learnability. Well, this is the catalyst. This is the secret sauce that powers up all the others. It's what allows us to actually grow and adapt over time. This right here is the engine of adaptation. It's the attribute that makes sure that every single experience, every win, every failure becomes valuable data for the future. It's what makes your situational awareness from last year relevant for what you're facing tomorrow.
Think of it this way. Learnability is what turns raw experience into actual wisdom. It's an act of choice, a commitment to process and apply the lessons you learn. And that, in turn, strengthens your ability to see, to focus, and to switch more effectively. It's how you make sure you are always getting better.
So, how do these 4 attributes really come together to create elite mental performance? Let's take a look at how they form this powerful, dynamic system. This slide just shows that cognitive loop in action. You use your situational awareness to process what's happening. Then you use compartmentalization to focus on what matters right now. You use task switching to shift that focus when you need to, and all the while, you're using learnability to get better and smarter for the next time around.
The takeaway here is so powerful. You can't develop these attributes sitting in a comfortable classroom. They aren't learned, they are forged. That discomfort and uncertainty he's talking about, that isn't always about jumping out of a plane. It's about volunteering for that presentation that makes you nervous, taking on a project with a totally unknown outcome, or maybe even learning a difficult new skill.
And that, right there, is the ultimate takeaway. This isn't about avoiding stress or difficulty. It's about actively seeking out the right kind of challenges, the ones that will let you build and sharpen your own mental acuity arsenal. That's what will make you more effective, more resilient, and more adaptable no matter what life throws your way.
You know, we hear all these buzzwords about what it takes to succeed, where it's like grit,
passion, resilience. But what if the real secret, the actual engine for long-term achievement, is something deeper? Well, today we're going to crack open the idea of drive as defined by former Navy SEAL commander Rich Deviney and uncover the hidden attributes that really fuel the world's top performers. Let's get into it.
Okay, first things first, let's get on the same page. We all know about grit, right? That toughness that gets you through a really hard week or one single brutal project. But Deviney makes this super important distinction. Drive is different. Think of it this way. Grit is for the sprint. Drive, that's the engine for the marathon. It's the thing that lets you pursue and actually achieve those massive long-term goals. So what's really powering that engine?
So, drive is built on 5 key attributes, and we're going to start with the first 3. You can think of these as the core components, the foundational engine that really gets the wheels turning in the first place. These might seem a little more familiar, but the way Deviney frames them, that's where the magic is.
And here they are, framed by their chapter titles from the book, which are just brilliant. We've got Mastering the Pivot, The Self-Disciplined Loser, and A Fish Discovers Water. I mean, those names alone kind of tell you we're going way beyond the simple dictionary definitions here. Let's break them down one by one.
Everything, and I mean everything, starts right here with self-efficacy. This is the absolute bedrock. It's not just about being confident, it's that deep internal belief that you have what it takes to get started, and this is key, to figure things out as you go. Without this belief, the car never even leaves the driveway.
So what does that belief actually look like in practice? Well, it's this really powerful combination of 3 things. You've got confidence in what you can do, the initiative to actually take that first scary step, and a healthy dose of realistic optimism, which isn't blind faith, by the way. It's the grounded belief that, yeah, there will be challenges, but you can navigate them.
Next up is discipline, and that chapter titled The Self-Disciplined Loser is so powerful because it totally reframes what we think discipline is. See, true discipline isn't just about grinding and winning. It's about understanding the whole process, doing the work that's required, and, crucially, not getting too carried away by the wins or completely destroyed by the losses. It's all about staying steady on the path.
And our third foundational attribute is open-mindedness. You know that saying, a fish is the last to discover water? That's perfect for this. If your mind is closed off, you're basically blind to the world you're operating in. And for any long-term journey, you have to be able to take in new information and adapt. A closed mind just isn't going to make it. Okay, so we've got the foundation. Now we're going to move into the attributes that are a little more surprising, the ones that really give people an edge. And this first one is a total game changer once you get what it really means. Let's talk about cunning. So when you hear the word cunning, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Deception, right? Maybe manipulation? For most of us, it has this kind of negative, sneaky vibe. But in the world of high performance, we've got to completely rethink that idea. And this is where Deviney's definition is so brilliant. He reframes cunning entirely. It's not about being a bad person, it's about how you see the world. It's the ability to look at a problem and see solutions that nobody else does, because everyone else is stuck inside these imaginary rules and boundaries. Just think about that chapter title, The Princess and the Dragon. It frames it perfectly. Cunning isn't about being deceitful. It's about being the clever princess who outthinks the dragon, instead of trying to fight it head-on with brute force. It's all about ingenuity and creative, unconventional problem-solving. All right, you ready for this one? We're about to get into the most controversial attribute of them all, the one that makes everyone lean in a little bit. We're going to talk about how narcissism can actually be a powerful and maybe even necessary fuel for your drive.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. Narcissism? A good thing? No way! And look, that's the right reaction. We are conditioned to see narcissism as this totally toxic flaw. But what if, in the right dose, it's actually a key ingredient for amazing success?
So here's the absolute key. We are not talking about a clinical disorder here. Not at all. We're talking about something called healthy narcissism. This is that basic human desire to be seen, to be recognized, and to be valued for what you accomplish. And that desire, at a healthy level, can be an incredibly powerful and sustainable motivator.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. Here's a perfect example from the man himself. Deviney openly admits that part of his motivation, part of what drove him through the immense challenge of becoming a Navy SEAL, was the desire to be recognized and esteemed for it. That's healthy narcissism in action, fueling something extraordinary.
So, there we have it. Our 5 attributes. The 3 foundational ones and the 2 unconventional ones that give you the edge.
Let's do a quick roll-up and see how this all comes together to create that unstoppable force we call drive.
This table just lays it out perfectly. Self-efficacy is the belief that lets you even get started. Discipline is what keeps you on the path, day in and day out. Open-mindedness is what lets you learn and adapt as you go. Cunning? That's your secret weapon for those impossible problems. And that healthy narcissism, that's the fuel in the tank. It's the personal why that makes the goal matter so much. Put them all together, and that's sustained drive.
Okay, so understanding these attributes is one thing, but the real question, the one you're probably asking right now, is how do I build them, right? I mean, you can't just go take a class on Cunning 101. The answer is actually a lot simpler and a whole lot harder than that.
This right here, this is the single most important takeaway of this entire thing. Attributes are not skills. They are forged, not taught. The only way, and I mean the only way to develop something like discipline or cunning is to willingly and consciously put yourself in situations that demand it. Growth only and ever happens at the edge of your comfort zone.
So as we wrap up, I'm going to leave you with this question. Looking at that list of 5 attributes, which one is already a hidden strength for you? And maybe more importantly, which one are you going to consciously choose to develop next by throwing yourself into a little bit of discomfort?
Have you ever wondered what really truly makes an elite team click? It's not just about stacking your roster with the most skilled people. Nope. Today, we're diving into the work of former Navy SEAL Commander Rich Devine, and he has created a blueprint that looks past what people can do and instead gets right to the heart of who they are.
I mean, we've all seen this happen, right? The all-star team that just completely crumbles when the stakes are at their highest, or the company that's full of geniuses but gets outmaneuvered by a scrappy little startup. The reason Devine argues is that we've been focusing on all the wrong things. You know the old saying, we hire for skills, but we fire for behavior?
Okay, think of it like an iceberg. Your skills, that's the tip. It's the stuff you learn, like coding or speaking another language. It's all visible, and it's pretty easy to test. But the attributes? That's the massive hidden part of the iceberg, deep below the surface. These are those innate drivers, things like resilience and adaptability, that only really show themselves when you're under pressure. And that is where optimal performance is truly born.
So let's get into the 4 key attributes that Devine calls teamability. First up, we've got the foundation of it all, integrity. But here's the thing, it's probably not what you think it is.
Now, this quote from Devine is, well, it's designed to be provocative, to make you stop and think. It forces us to stop thinking about integrity as some kind of universal good or bad. Instead, he wants us to see it as something that is highly, highly contextual.
So here's the crucial point. In this framework, integrity isn't about being a good person in some absolute sense. It's all about how well you stick to the code of your specific group, whether that group is your family, your company, or, your SEAL team. It's all about alignment.
And this comparison, this makes it crystal clear. A Cub Scout who steals from another Scout has low integrity, right? At least relative to their group's code of honesty. Meanwhile, and stick with me here, an ISIS member who carries out a horrific mission they promised to complete is, by this specific definition, showing high integrity relative to their group's code. I know, it's a challenging concept, but it's absolutely key to understanding what makes a group stick together.
Okay, let's move on to the second attribute. If integrity is the team's foundation, think of conscientiousness as its engine. This is the internal drive that separates the people who just show up from the ones who are active and valuable contributors. And it's not just one thing either. It's this powerful combination of 3 parts. First, are you reliable? Do you actually do what you say you're going to do? Second, are you hardworking? Do you bring the effort that's needed? And third, are you diligent? Do you see the task all the way through to the end? You really need all 3 to be truly conscientious. And the result of all that? Well, teammates like this are absolute gold. You don't have to micromanage them. They build trust just by being who they are, because their actions do all the talking. They are the ones who are always moving the team forward, always finding something to do to help the mission.
All right, attribute number 3. This one is so often misunderstood as a weakness, but on an elite team, it's a strategic weapon. We are talking about humility, and the key mindset is really simple. Play black, not red.
So, what on earth does that mean? It actually comes from a simple card game that reveals this profound truth about the difference between competition and collaboration.
Okay, so imagine there are 2 teams. On every turn, you can play a red card, which is competitive, or a black card, which is collaborative. If you play red and they play black, you win big, but they lose. If you both play red, you both lose. But if you both consistently play black, if you choose trust, you both win, and you maximize the total points for everybody. Playing black is choosing the win-win.
And that, right there, is humility in action. It's not about thinking less of yourself, it's about thinking of yourself less. It's about knowing what you do well and, just as important, knowing where you need help. That self-awareness is what allows a team to actually work together, to cover for each other's weaknesses, and to amplify everyone's strengths.
And finally, we get to the most surprising attribute of them all. This is one Davini says is present in every single high-performing team he's ever seen. It's the social glue that holds everything together: humor.
Just let that sink in for a second. Coming from a guy who spent 20 years as a Navy SEAL commander, that statement carries enormous weight. In the most stressful, high-stakes environments on the entire planet, humor isn't a nice-to-have, it's a necessity.
So why is it so critical? Well, because humor is basically a biological tool for survival. When we laugh together, especially during tough times, our brains release chemicals that reduce stress, build social bonds, and actually help us persevere. It's like a neurological hack that makes the entire team more resilient.
This is what it really means to honor the class clown. While every great team seems to have that one person who cracks a joke at the perfect moment, you don't have to be that person. You just have to be part of a culture that appreciates it, a culture that can laugh together. That shared experience forges a bond that is just about unbreakable.
So there you have it, the 4 keys to teamability. Now let's look at your blueprint for putting them into action, because here's the most important takeaway of all. These attributes, they're not fixed. You can develop them.
You see, unlike a skill you can learn from a book, you can't go to a class on humility, right? You develop these attributes by intentionally putting yourself in situations that test them. You build resilience by facing adversity. You develop patience by choosing to endure frustration. It takes a conscious effort to step into that discomfort.
So as we wrap this up, the question isn't just what makes a great teammate. The real question is, how can I become one? Looking at this blueprint of integrity, conscientiousness, humility, and humor, which attribute will you choose to build first? Now that's a thought worth exploring.
Have you ever wondered what really makes an elite team, like the Navy SEALs, actually tick? Well, it's probably not what you think it is. Today, we're going to dive into a really powerful framework from former SEAL commander Rich Divine, and we're going to uncover the hidden drivers that separate the absolute best from everybody else. So first up, let's talk about a problem that is way too common. Why is it that teams stacked with the absolute best talent so often just crash and burn? I mean, picture this. You assemble a team of all-stars. You've got the best designer, the best marketer, the best engineer. On paper, they look completely unstoppable, right? But then, the very first moment a real challenge hits, the whole thing just implodes. The team turns toxic. So, what is going on there?
Well, the answer, and this is really the crucial point for our whole conversation today, it isn't found in what your team members can do. It has nothing to do with their skills. It's all about who they are. It's about their inherent attributes.
This quote right here just gets right to the heart of it. I mean, think about it for a second. Skills are things we learn, right? Riding a bike, writing code, giving a speech. But when you're thrown into a situation you have never, ever faced before, your skills can totally fail you. And that is when our core attributes, things like adaptability, resilience, patience, that's when they take over. It's what we fall back on when the plan goes completely out the window. So, okay, if attributes are the key, how do elite teams actually put them to use? Well, that brings us to our first really big solution, this powerful concept called dynamic subordination. Okay. So on the left, you see the classic rigid pyramid, right? The boss is at the top, and all the weight is on that one person. But elite teams, they operate more like this fluid amoeba you see on the right. Leadership isn't fixed. It just flows to wherever it's needed most in any given moment.
So in a SEAL team, problems can pop up from any direction at any time. Dynamic subordination makes the rule incredibly simple. Whoever is closest to the problem and the most capable of solving it, they take the lead. Instantly. And everyone else's job, it's to follow and support them. And then, as the situation changes, leadership just shifts again. It's that fluid.
You know what it's like, a flock of geese. That lead goose is taking all the wind resistance. It's doing the absolute hardest work. But it doesn't stay there forever, does it? No way. They are constantly swapping out, letting others take the lead, so the whole group can travel way further, together. That, right there, is dynamic subordination. It's how you play the long game and perform sustainably.
But for a system like that to work, for people to willingly follow a leader who might change from minute to minute, you need something really powerful holding it all together. You need what we can call the human glue.
And that glue, well, it's trust. It's the single most important, but so often unspoken factor. When those dream teams we talked about earlier fail, it's almost always because of a lack of trust.
So how do you actually build that trust? Well, Devaney points to 4 core attributes. First up, we have integrity. This is all about consistently choosing the hard right over the easy wrong, even when it costs you something. Next, conscientiousness. That's the person who does the job right, even when nobody is watching. They have this internal drive for excellence. Third is humility. Now, this isn't about thinking less of yourself. It's about thinking of yourself less. It's being confident enough to celebrate other people's wins and self-aware enough to admit when you're wrong. And finally, humor. This one is so cool. It's a neurological hack that just breaks tension and builds that camaraderie, especially when things get tough. It's like the release valve that keeps a team bonded under pressure.
And here is the absolute most crucial point about trust in all these attributes. You can't demand it, you can't force it on anyone. The only thing you can do is behave in a way that shows you have these attributes, and then allow other people to make the choice to trust you.
Okay, so this is all incredibly powerful for teams, but let's bring it back home. Let's make it personal. How can you use this to improve your own performance? Well, it's time to decode your own personal palette of attributes. This is the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, these attributes are often running in the background of our minds, which makes them really hard to see. So how do you actually figure out which ones are your biggest strengths?
Okay, so the process is actually deceptively simple, but it is incredibly powerful. Step 1 is situational awareness. You have to start paying really close attention to how you act in different situations, especially the stressful ones. What are your go-to reactions? Then, step 2 is self-reflection. Don't just notice what you did, you have to ask yourself why you did it. That why, that's where you're going to find your attributes.
Now, here's the thing. If you find an attribute you want to get better at, it's not like taking a class. You can't just read a book on patience and poof, you're more patient. The only way to develop an attribute is to intentionally put yourself in situations that test it. It takes a conscious effort to just throw yourself into discomfort and uncertainty. That's where all the growth happens.
And that brings us to our final and maybe the most powerful idea of them all. It's about completely reframing what we're aiming for. It's about shifting our target from something that's fleeting to something that's truly sustainable. You know, so many of us are absolutely obsessed with peak performance. But a peak is just that. It's an apex. It's a high point you have to come down from. It's usually planned, like an athlete peaking for a 3-hour game on a Sunday. Optimal performance, on the other hand, is about doing the best you can with what you've got right here in this moment. It's sustainable, it's gritty, and it covers everything from those amazing flow states to the days where you're just grinding it out. And this is why this concept is so incredibly empowering. It is so realistic. Some days your best isn't some glorious victory, it's just putting your head down and taking one more step. And according to this framework, that is not failure. That is performing optimally.
You know, when you adopt this mindset, 2 huge things happen. First, it allows you to actually pat yourself on the back during those really hard days because you know you're still doing your best. And second, it allows for what Devaney calls responsible energy management. You don't have to be at your peak just to drive to the grocery store, right? You can manage your energy for when it really counts.
So the takeaway here is super simple and really direct. Stop the endless chase for those fleeting peaks. Instead, start focusing on performing optimally every single day.
And that leaves us with one final question for you to think about. If developing your attributes requires getting uncomfortable, what uncomfortable situation are you going to seek out this week to start building yours?